Okay guys, this is going to be a video on the fundamental differences between a coil machine and a rotary machine. It's a pretty basic question, to be honest, but it's a question that I feel I can spread quite a bit of light on for people that don't know, or people that are pretty new to the industry. So what we've got here is a Mickey Sharp's custom telephone dial Mark IV with a flame effect. Amazing machine. I used to use this a lot for lining. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, anyone getting into tattooing for the first time, get a coil machine. Don't bother with rotaries when you're first getting into tattooing. That's my advice to anyone. You can learn so much about coil machines. You might have noticed this has got an RCA adapter on it. I've added that to it, but the machine is genuine Mickey Sharp's. I think that cost about £160 direct from Mickey Sharp's. Check them out, mickey-sharps.com. Amazing machine builder based in Birmingham in UK. The next machine I've got here is the Dragonfly X2. If you're interested in this machine, check my videos out, subscribe to my channel. Beyond there, there's a review on this machine. Also, great machine. Again, obviously this is a rotary machine, not a coil machine. And works completely different ways. So, these are the two machines. Now, from the offset, I suppose they look similar to each other. I don't know if that's been a conscious thing when people have started developing rotary machines to make them look similar to coil machines. Okay. The two main things that we're going to be looking at today are the two main variables that we can adjust on the machines. Now, those two variables being the screws at the top. Both of these machines have got a screw at the top. And the fact that we can add power to both machines. So they're the two variables that we're going to look at. So I've already said we're going to be looking at what the screws on top of both machines do and the power. So these two elements affect speed, which is the speed of the machine, how many cycles per second your machine's doing, and we're also going to be looking at hit. So how hard and how soft the machine hits, and both of these elements are affected with adding power to the machine and turning the screw. Just turn this around. Okay. Now, the misconception with coil machines is the more power you add to the machine, the faster it runs. And a lot of newbies, they ask the question, when someone's got a coil machine, they say, how many volts do you run your machine at on a coil machine? And hopefully after this video you'll understand that asking someone how many volts are in a coil machine at is not going to help you at all, because the volts added to a coil machine don't really affect the speed. They do to a certain extent, they'll affect the speed, but really minimal when you're adding volts to a coil machine. When you add volts to a coil machine, you're actually changing the hit of the machine. So this is where the confusion lies, because the power controls the hit of a coil machine. So the more volts I add to this machine, let's say I'm running this machine, let's just say at 6 volts, and this is a liner, and this liner is running at 120 cycles per second. Okay, and I'm running this at 6 volts, just for example. Now, so this needle bar is going up and down 120 times a second, and it's running at 6 volts. Now, if I increase the voltage of this machine, let's say I turn the voltage up to 7 volts, the cycles per second won't really increase. You might get a few extra cycles per second, so it might go up to about 123, but ultimately the cycles per second are going to stay in this ballpark. And the only thing that's going to happen is the more volts that you apply to this machine is you're going to start adding more power to the magnets, because the way a coil machine works is these two coils here turn to magnets, and it pulls the armature bar down. When it pulls the armature bar down, it breaks the circuit, the magnets turn off, and so on. It goes up and down like that. Now, the more juice that you put in these, the more power, the more volts that you put in these, the stronger these magnets become. And the stronger the magnet, obviously, the harder it's going to pull down the metal armature bar. So, if I've got 6 volts in here, this machine's going to be running just at a nice ticking over, you know, hitting like a medium hit. Now, because I'm just getting enough volts to pull this armature bar down for the setup that's on it, for the, you know, for the gauge of the spring and everything that I'm using on it. Now, the more volts I increase, you know, the more power I add to this, then the magnet begins to get more powerful, and more powerful the magnet is, it's going to pull down this metal bar down. So the machine's going to start hitting harder, but it's still going to be running around 120 cycles per second. It's not really going to speed up, it's just going to make it hit really hard. So if you want your coil machine to hit really hard, like for a liner or say something like that, then you'd run it and you'd add a bit more juice to it if it hitting soft. Now, let's say this was a shader machine and you wanted it to hit softer. What you'd do is you'd turn the volts down, and then what that would do is that would make these magnets not as strong, so they're still pulling this armature bar down, but it's pulling it down with not as much force because the magnets aren't as strong. And what you can actually do with coil machines is, and why coil machines are good to learn on, is because you can actually set the voltage, so the magnets are just powerful enough to bring the needle down, but the resistance of the skin, when the needle goes into the skin, it can actually stop the armature bar. So in essence, what you can do is you can actually, so let's say this is the skin, the needle's coming down, you can actually set these magnets, set the power on them, so when the needle hits the skin it just goes in at the right depth that you need, and the magnets aren't strong enough to pull it down all the way, you know, so a lot less risk of getting a blowout or anything like that in the skin. And this is why coil machines are so good to learn on, because you can get a real true feel for hit. And all this again is controlled with the power going in. So power, let's write it down, power equals hit on a coil machine. Now, if you want to speed a coil machine up or slow it down, then we use this screw here. And what this screw does, it makes the distance between the front spring and the contact screw, it makes a bigger gap. So the smaller gap you've got, the faster this armature bar is going to go up and down. And the bigger the gap, if you back this screw off and you've got a bigger gap, so the armature bar's got a lot more travelling to do. So in essence, what this screw does, it controls the speed of the machine. So we said power controls the magnet's hit, so it controls how hard the machine hits. The spring, the screw at the top, the contact screw, controls how fast the machine runs. So if you screw this down, still running at 6 volts, you can run this at 6 volts, but if you screwed this down and made the gap smaller, then the machine will speed up considerably. And if you back this off, the machine will slow down. So your cycles per second can go up, or they can go down, just by turning this screw. And you hit, again, you control that with the power. So that's the basics of a coil machine. That's how a coil machine's running. Now, here's the thing with a rotary machine. It's back to front of what a coil machine does. So we said the screw at the top controls the speed of a coil machine. Now, the screw at the top of a rotary machine controls the hit. So it's back to front, okay? The hit's controlled by the power on a coil machine, the hit's controlled by the screw on a rotary machine. So let's say again I'm running this machine at 6 volts, just for example, okay? Now, if I turn this screw, the actual cycles per second will not change on a rotary machine. It'll still be going down at the exact same speed, up and down. But what happens is the machine will start hitting softer. The more you turn this screw out, the more you back it out anti-clockwise, the machine will start hitting softer. And if you want the machine to hit really, really hard with no give at all, you can screw it all the way clockwise down. So the hit's controlled with the screw on a rotary machine. Now the speed on a rotary machine, don't forget, the speed on the coil machine is controlled by the screw. The speed on a rotary machine is controlled by the power. And that's the difference between a coil and a rotary, okay? So let's say you're running a rotary machine at 6 volts and you're achieving, let's just say for example 90 cycles per second. It's more on this machine, but it's just an example. So let's say we're achieving 90 cycles per second with this machine running at 6 volts. If we increase the power on a rotary machine, the motor inside will increase its cycles per second. In other words, it will get faster. So the more power we add to a rotary machine, the faster it's going to go, the faster CPS we're going to get. This is getting a little bit confusing on this piece of paper now. So I don't know if you're going to need to put this video back and take it in again what I've just said, because it is slightly confusing, but when you get your head around it, it just clicks. So to sum up, let's just sum this up. So, coil machine, volts equal hit. Screw equals speed. And on a rotary machine, volts equal speed, screw equals hit. So hopefully that makes sense and I've explained it right to people and you can grasp what the differences are. And if you are interested in a more in-depth video on voltage and how to set the correct voltage, subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos on correct voltage for a rotary machine, and I go really in depth on cycles per second and how to achieve them with rotary machines. And if you don't know about how to achieve the cycles per second on a rotary, it's a really good video and it goes really in depth. So hopefully this has ironed a few problems out for people, and if you like this video guys, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and there'll be some more videos coming soon. Thanks guys.